That silence inside the Florida hospital room isn't just heavy, it's shattering. As Offset struggles just to breathe, the same man who once stood tall as the backbone of the Migos empire is now reduced to someone watching his whole world burn to ashes at the hands of people he once trusted like family. We all thought we recognized the enemy, but what if the real monster was never in the shadows at all? What if it was right there, sharing the same bed? Then Katt Williams stormed in and shattered the internet's heart, exposing a pain so deep it feels unbearable to ignore. This isn't just about a shooting anymore, it's about a cold betrayal that hits harder than anyone expected. When Cardi B expressed fears about Stefon Diggs, people brushed it off as emotion. But now Katt's latest claims paint something far darker. Oh, now we're being shown a father, a brother, and an icon getting torn apart piece by piece from the inside out, like that wasn't dramatic enough already. The very hands that once held him up are now being blamed for pushing him straight into danger. It's giving full Shakespeare-level chaos, a love story twisted into a weapon and a brotherhood casually traded for payout. And just wait, because the moment you connect that $10 million divorce, the new romance, and that icy night at the valet, suddenly the whole industry starts looking real different. The glue? Gone. The family? Shattered. And the truth? Yeah, it hits exactly how you think it will. They love to say money and fame can get you anything, right? Well, early April 6, 2026 proved that idea completely wrong. The glowing lights of the Seminole Hard Rock Casino are supposed to scream luxury and dreams, but for Offset, they turned into the perfect setting for a nightmare. When those gunshots echoed through the Florida night, reality hit hard. The Migos, once untouchable, were falling apart one by one. That valet footage isn't just a crime scene, it feels like watching the last pieces of a once unbreakable brotherhood collapse in real time. And in that moment, Offset wasn't just a rapper, he was a father, a survivor, and a man carrying ghosts he never escaped. But while he fought for his life in that hospital bed, the world wasn't just sending prayers. They were already searching for someone to blame. And the names floating around? Yeah, they don't sit right at all. We need to rewind the tape all the way back to that moment when Katt Williams sat across from Shannon Sharpe and casually ripped the curtain off the entire entertainment circus. Back then, people laughed it off like it was just Katt being Katt. But fast forward to the wreckage of 2026, and suddenly those same words don't feel like comedy at all. They hit like a funeral speech nobody was ready for. Katt wasn't just cracking jokes, he was talking about something he called the algorithm of removal. He explained how the industry treats black excellence like a product, something to be consumed until it becomes more profitable to discard it. The money goes up, he said, and they only have to deal with the mama once a year. That thought sits heavy, like iron in your chest. So the question becomes, was Offset's shooting just random chaos, or part of something far more calculated and cold? Katt Williams' recent statements have shifted attention away from the streets and pointed directly at the inner circle. His message suggests the industry doesn't just observe tragedy, it might actually shape it. But the real pain in this story isn't even the bullets, it's what feels like betrayal. For 7 years, Offset and Cardi B were seen as the ultimate it couple, a modern-day dream. But dreams can rot fast when lawyers step in. The divorce wasn't just paperwork, it felt like war dressed in legal language. A rejected $10 million settlement, accusations of delayed filings, and public outbursts that stripped away any remaining dignity. Meanwhile, the world watched Cardi B move forward with New England Patriots star Stefon Diggs. The Valentine's posts, the smiles, the public glow, it all sent a message that Offset's chapter was closed and burned. Then came the twist nobody expected, reports suggesting Cardi herself had voiced disturbing suspicions about Stefon Diggs being tied to the chaos surrounding Offset. Just imagine carrying that kind of emotional weight, believing the person you loved might now be linked to someone connected to your downfall. It's a psychological pressure most people couldn't survive. Katt Williams doubled down on this chaos, claiming that Hollywood relationships are often manipulated by bigger forces to destabilize artists from within. If Stefon Diggs was simply a pawn, then Offset didn't just lose a marriage, he was caught inside a system he once helped elevate. And you can't understand his pain without understanding the glue. Takeoff was that glue, the quiet force, the heart of Migos. the one who stayed away from noise and just focused on music. When he was killed in that Houston bowling alley, something permanently broke inside the family structure. For 3 long years, Offset carried that grief like it was embedded in his bones. Every performance, every interview, every social post showed a man slowly fading behind his own eyes. He lost his brother, his nephew, and pieces of his identity all at once. Now in 2026, he sits in a hospital bed while the legal case around Takeoff's death still drags on, justice still out of reach. The family is fractured, time is moving, and violence seems to echo even after the original tragedy. Is it really just coincidence that the remaining Migos members are now distant, while everything around their legacy gets consumed by lawsuits and losses? Katt Williams insists it's not coincidence at all. He claims the structure requires the glue to disappear so the remaining pieces can be controlled more easily. When you lay it all out on a timeline, Takeoff in 2022, Rihanna's estate situation in March 2026, and Offset's shooting in April 2026, a pattern starts to feel impossible to ignore. It looks like vulnerability stacked on vulnerability, targeting people at their most exposed points. And with no clear suspects and official silence from authorities, the biggest question remains hanging in the air. If Katt Williams is even partially right, if the industry operates like a shark tank feeding on its own, then who was the real target in Florida that night? Was it just Offset's life on the line, or something even deeper? The idea that success in this world never truly guarantees safety? The betrayal cuts deepest because in the end, the one holding the weapon might be a stranger, but the ones funding the damage could be closer than anyone wants to admit. The hospital walls in Florida feel colder than ever, but not nearly as cold as the storm of betrayal forming outside them. As Offset lies connected to machines tracking every fragile heartbeat, the situation becomes less about survival and more like watching the slow unraveling of a legacy. Katt Williams didn't just speak out, he cracked open the entire illusion of loyalty in fame. And when he pointed his finger, it wasn't at random outsiders. It was aimed at personal spaces, the dinner table, relationships, the people meant to protect you. That's what makes this story sting so much. Because Offset's downfall, according to these claims, might not have come from enemies, but from trust placed in the wrong places. Then there's the silence from Cardi B in the aftermath. A silence that eventually broke not with clarity, but with unsettling claims that sent social media into chaos. When rumors surfaced connecting her concerns to Stefon Diggs, things escalated fast. And when Katt Williams echoed those same ideas in his own dramatic way, the internet split in disbelief. His theory goes even further, suggesting the industry doesn't just create conflict, it replaces people. It allegedly moves new figures into key emotional roles, isolating the original artist until they are mentally and emotionally drained. If that idea holds any weight, then Stefon Diggs wasn't just part of a relationship shift. He was positioned like a move on a chessboard, placed into a story already in motion long before anyone noticed. And at the center of it all, Offset is left watching his entire world rearranged in real time while fighting battles no one fully understands. At this point, the narrative stops feeling like gossip and starts feeling like a storm nobody can fully control. Every new detail only deepens the confusion, blurring the line between truth, rumor, and entertainment. And as the world keeps watching from a distance, the real question becomes whether anyone inside this story can ever escape the roles they've been assigned. In an industry built on attention, even tragedy becomes content, and even silence feels suspicious when the cameras refuse to stop rolling, or ever truly disappear from the spotlight entirely. It's a story of a man being erased. Katt Williams calls it the erasure, a process where an icon is stripped of their support system, their finances, and eventually their safety. Look at the divorce timeline. It was not just a breakup, it became a financial strangulation, a $1.5 million tax liability, a $10 million settlement rejection, and a public story painting Offset as the villain in every angle while he was drowning in legal fees and grief from Takeoff. The industry was already building a new throne around him, Katt Williams says. This is how the big dick deviants operate. They create a vacuum around high-earning artists, making them vulnerable, paranoid, and eventually targeted. When money is followed, no street motive appears, only corporate intent. A dead or silenced Offset becomes more valuable in catalogs and insurance than a living, breathing man who refuses control. The tragedy grows when you realize his survival is treated like entertainment, as headlines about Cardi B and Stefon Diggs stab deeper into his reputation legacy. The heart breaks when you see Offset's struggle treated like a spectacle. Every headline about Cardi B and Stefon Diggs feels like another dagger in a fallen leader. Katt Williams claims the industry monopoly thrives on internal war, pitting family against him and linking new partners to his downfall, creating trauma deeper than violence alone. It is psychological warfare hollowing him out. You see it in old footage, Offset fading after 2022, the light leaving his eyes slowly. He knew walls were closing. And in a world of wolves, he ran out of people watching his back. Why now? Why 2026? Katt Williams says the algorithm has peaked with Takeoff's trial approaching. The powers that be needed Offset sidelined, keeping focus on scandal instead of exploitation. Every click on Cardi B and Stefon Diggs feeds distraction, hiding a man fighting for survival because became inconvenient. But why now? Why 2026? Katt Williams says the algorithm has peaked with Takeoff's trial approaching. The powers that be wanted Offset sideline to keep focus on scandal instead of exploitation. Every click on Cardi B and Stefon Diggs becomes distraction, hiding real suffering of a man fighting for survival because he became inconvenient to system. Katt Williams' voice stands alone, calling out the noise, pushing us to see the blood behind contracts instead of truth. People chase gossip while an icon struggles in silence. The industry turns pain into content and truth into headlines, while everyone watches without seeing the cost behind the cameras. Narratives are shaped to distract from deeper control. Katt Williams warns that what looks like chaos is often strategy designed to isolate those who refuse to bend the system until nothing remains but silence. As the sun drops over Hollywood, Florida hospital, silence feels brutally deafening tonight. Now Migos empire feels like empty ghost town. Takeoff is missing, Quavo feels distant, and Offset is in a bed surrounded by security guards because he can't even trust the air he breathes, while paranoia grows and every shadow outside the room feels like another threat closing in around him. Under heavy protection and constant fear of unseen danger, now the betrayal inside feels like wound that never heals. Sits the shocking realization industry isn't place, it's a trap indeed. And the most terrifying part of Katt Williams' warning is who will be next? Question, because if they can do this to a Migos member, if they can turn a family against itself and leave a king bleeding in a valet parking lot, then nobody is safe. The tears we shed for Offset aren't just for him, they are for the death of loyalty, the death of family, and the dark reality that in the quest for 100 million, a human life is just a line item on a balance sheet. The world watches, Katt speaks, and tragedy feels nowhere close to over yet. Now who knew that the end of the Migos would be written in blood and betrayal, orchestrated by the very hands that once clapped for their success? The question isn't whether Offset will survive, the question is whether he will ever recognize the faces of those who stood in the shadows watching his empire burn. When Katt Williams broke his silence, he didn't just hurl accusations, he drew a map of a domestic war that the world mistook for a simple celebrity divorce. The night of April 6, 2026 proved one devastating truth: the enemy doesn't always come from the street. Sometimes the enemy is the person hiding in your highlight reel, the one who toasted to your success while sharpening the blade. Katt's message was chillingly clear: when the industry wants to dismantle an icon, they first strip away their armor. For Offset, that armor was his family and his love. When the names of Cardi B and Stefon Diggs surfaced in the wake of this tragedy, the world felt the ground shift. Is it possible that the man who fought the world for Migos is now being hunted from within his own home? Katt Williams dropped a truth that tears through the soul. He said corporations don't buy artists, they buy tragedies. Now think about cold reality of this moment. While Offset fights for his life in a sterilized hospital room, the market is feasting on his blood. Migos streaming numbers are skyrocketing. Headlines are obsessed with Cardi B's new chapter, and Stefon Diggs is being branded as the new king of the castle. This is cold economics. Katt warned us about truth. He alleges that the industry hasn't just allowed this relationship, they've engineered a strategic alliance designed to leave Offset isolated and broken. This isn't just a breakup, it's a social execution. When your partner stands with the very people linked to your downfall, you don't need a bullet to die. Yuri already gone. 2026 has shown us darkest side of fame, where human emotions are weaponized for quarterly profit now. But the most heartbreaking part of this tragedy is the innocent eyes watching from the sidelines. Offset's children, the ones he called his world, are now caught in a crossfire of betrayal. Their father is in a hospital bed, and their mother is being linked to the very man Standing in his shadow, Katt Williams made the world weep when he said the system doesn't care about the orphans it creates as long as the contracts are senior. It's a haunting thought that makes your skin crawl. We live in an era where a man's life is treated like content for a 24-hour news cycle. Cardi B's past accusations against Stefon Diggs have now become a terrifying puzzle. Was she truly afraid, or was she laying the groundwork for a narrative that would eventually leave Offset defenseless? After Takeoff was taken from us, Offset said he had lost the glue that held everything together. Today we see that the glue didn't just dry up, it was dissolved. Katt Williams insists that Takeoff's death wasn't an isolated incident, it was the first move in a long-term plan to fracture the Migos empire. Once glue gone, pieces were easy to pick apart. First the group crumbled, then the marriage shattered, the finances were drained, and finally those two shots rang out in a valet parking lot to tell the world that Offset was next. In Katt's world, this is how the monopoly works. They keep you alive as long as you're a gold mine, but the moment you become inconvenient, the removal process begins. The link between the Rihanna estate shooting and the attack on Offset is the pattern of icons who tried to own their own narrative. Now we are left to wonder, will Offset ever be able to stand up and tell the truth, or will he be turned into another tragic hero that the world mourns for a week and then forgets? The fire Katt Williams started isn't going out. He has forced us to look at the money trail hidden behind the gossip. When you look at Offset's broken frame in that hospital bed, don't just see a rapper, see a man who was betrayed by his industry, his peers, and his own destiny. Katt said the big dick deviants would be exposed, but in 2026 those forces seem more ruthless than ever. They don't just end careers anymore, they take aim at the heart. The world is a cruel place. While we gossip on social media, Offset's life may be reaching its final curtain call. Whatever the truth is behind Cardi B and Stefon Diggs, Katt Williams has painted a picture that leaves us with nothing but tears. A man who rose from the streets of Lawrenceville to conquer the world is now alone in a room full of machines. He has the money and the fame, but the family he built it all for is nowhere to be found. Katt's final question hangs in the air like a death sentence. When the king is down, who picks up the crown, or was it always a crown of thorns? Today hip-hop is in mourning, not just for an artist, but for the death of loyalty itself. Who is next? Perhaps it's the person watching this thinking they are safe, but in the industry, Katt describes, no one is ever truly safe. As the screen fades to black and the machines in that hospital room continue to beep, we are left standing at a crossroads. This isn't just another celebrity story, and you aren't just another viewer. You are now a witness to a pattern that many want to keep hidden in the dark. If what Katt Williams said is true, if the algorithm of removal is real, then your voice is the only thing that can break the silence. We are diving deeper into the contracts, the hidden connections, and the money trail that leads from a valet parking in Florida straight to the highest offices in Hollywood. We cannot handle this alone. The truth feels heavy and dangerous too. We need you to join this investigation. If you felt the weight of Offset's tragedy, if you're tired of seeing icons dismantled from within, then hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications. We are exposing parts of this story that mainstream media is too afraid to touch right now. Don't let this become another headline that disappears in 24 hours. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Katt Williams' warning, or do you think the betrayal goes even deeper? Who do you really think is pulling strings behind the scenes now? Your comments aren't just opinions, they are fuel that keeps this search for justice alive going. Look at the links in the description for our previous deep dives into the Migos legacy and Katt Williams Prophesize series. Stand with us, stand for the truth, and most importantly, stand for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Because in an industry built on silence, your engagement is our loudest weapon we have. Like, share, and stay tuned. The next revelation is coming, and you won't want to be the one who missed the warning. Who is next? Only time will tell, but together we will make sure the world is watching.